What prompted you to write your latest work, The Book of Man?
Men. They asked G.K. Chesterton once, they said, we're asking 50 people to write essays saying what's wrong with the world and send it into the London paper. He wrote an essay, he said, I am, sincerely yours. I'm what's wrong with the world. The problem is men. We have a man problem. Men in terms of their educational achievement, men at work, men meeting their commitments, men being good fathers and good husbands. We have a lot of great men out there doing their job, but we don't have as many as we need. And although the last few years we have seen tremendous efforts directed toward women and girls in terms of educational achievement, their aims and so on, we have kind of shorted men, and it's showing up. Men are not graduating from college in anything like the numbers that women are. Men are not in the workforce in anything like the numbers they used to be, even apart from the economic downturn. And of course, when we see divorce and separations and even the non-formation of families, we have a man problem. I think it's partly a boy problem in the sense that I don't think we are telling our boys what it means to be a man. And in this book, I talk about what it means to be a man in 6 contexts: work, play, war, politics, prayer and reflection, and the family.
When did the negative modern view of men and masculinity really begin developing?
I think the 60s have had a profoundly deleterious effect on boys and men. First of all, the advancement of women was fine, and opening up more opportunities for women was fine. But why did we have to do it at the price for men? Why did we have to say things such as, a woman needs a man as much as a fish needs a bicycle? That was Gloria Steinem's famous phrase. We didn't have to disparage men while women were on their way up, but we did. And we hurt them. We hurt their egos, because men are actually fairly fragile, despite the portrayals. Men have fragile egos, and when they don't know what they are supposed to be and how they're supposed to behave and act, when young men don't, they get off track. I used to say it's a shorthand. It's not exactly accurate, but I used to say it's a shorthand. Every boy is aimed at either becoming a member of the Bloods and the Crips or a United States Marine. All of us will fall. Most of us will fall somewhere in the middle. But that's what you have to bear in mind. And when some of this very doctrinaire feminist stuff came out, saying, men are by nature repressive and violent and cruel, it was wrong, and it sent the wrong signals to boys. We've paid a price for that. The other thing, of course, from the 60s is the cultural relativism. There is no such thing as man. There's no such thing as woman. Any role you choose in life is as good as any other. Who says it's a bad thing, to be a prostitute or to be a pimp compared to being a military man or so on? And that kind of relativism, judgmental relativism, doesn't serve the cause of men or women.
What are your thoughts regarding the new legislation of same-sex marriage in your home state of New York?
Well, I would have opposed it, voted against it. I'm with Maggie Gallagher in believing that things like this should be put to the people. And when it's put to the people, it's almost always voted down. I think it is always voted down. What I'm not for is judicial imposition of this. Legislative is better than judicial, but I think it's better if it's a referendum. Look, I watch this, I talk about it. I'm not a fan or supporter of gay marriage, but I agree with Mona Charen. We get too much sidetracked in the debate about this issue and not the debate about traditional marriage, which is where the vast majority of our people are or were, and this is the place we really need to focus in strengthening that traditional marriage.
What role does abstinence education play in strengthening traditional marriage?
Shoring it up, explaining to young people why it's a fulfilling institution. Young people, my wife runs a program in the inner city, 26 cities, she's in Washington most of the time. She rarely has a child whose parents are married in her classroom. When my friends get married, my wife says, "Can I bring some of my kids to your wedding?" People say, "Sure, how many?" 200 or 300. Well, it's kind of too many for the reception. She said, "I want my girls and boys to see a wedding. They've never seen a wedding. They've seen funerals of their teenage friends, but they've never seen a wedding of their friends." Here's the interesting thing. When she surveys them about marriage, they all want to be married. They all want to be married. That ideal is very real in their hearts. But we're not telling them what to do to get there. And we're not telling the boys what to do to get there. And that's the work that needs to be done. And that's big and large work. She's working in the classroom. She has a curriculum. But she's been told by administration officials to take out the word abstinence. This is what I mean when I say the policies of the 60s and 70s are now, official policies. Do not talk about abstinence. It's been suggested to her that when she talks about marriage, that she not say that marriage is preferred to any other lifestyle. It's just one option among many. So this is what happens when the cultural revolutionaries of the 60s and 70s get control of the levers of government. She said, I have 12 and 13 and 14-year-old girls. The only sensible thing to do is to counsel abstinence, whether you're thinking religiously, spiritually, morally, economically, prudently, for peace and social order and domestic tranquility. It's the only thing that makes sense. And yet it's government policy not to encourage abstinence over another lifestyle.
Where do you think people of faith should be stepping up at this time?
They should be stepping up everywhere. When I was drug czar, they said, how do we fight this problem? I said, everywhere. Burglar comes in your back door, you throw everything you got at him. You should step up in church, you should step up in school, in your community, you should write letters to the editor, you should listen to my radio show, you should send emails, you should vote, you should join the Tea Party, you should do everything possible that time and your other obligations allow, because the country right now is at a tipping point, and I think we get this country back or it tips further in the wrong direction.